Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto Full Curl Precision. This was the video I was hoping to make last night, but I couldn't find this little thing. Yeah, I had a green one, an RCBS one, and then move somehow. I don't know where it went, but it's not in my stuff. So I was able to pick up this one, and as much as it hurts me, so what was locally, it's a Hornady. But anyway, it'll do the trick. So for tonight, we're just going to be doing a little talking while I work on some loads. I'm actually working on some loads I'm going to do with the 140 grain terminal, not terminal scent, the 140 grain Sierra Game Changer, and then the 150 grain Nosler AccuBond Long Range. I'm trying out different casing and different primers to see if I can get a tighter standard deviation. This is a pretty solid little powder dispenser I have here. Let's see if I can get it to show up a little bit. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, sort of, right there. All right. And so all I'm going to be doing is feeding that and showing how I do my reloading, my testing. So let me pull this a little closer. So to start, put the cap on. That's always a good idea. And when I reset, so this is my loading die. I keep this loosened out by hand, and then I set my. This is a dummy load. So again, no primer, no powder. And so what I do is I just set it in here simply, and I extend this up into here, and then I just simply run this down until it gets snug, and then I give a little right there, and that is set to exactly match this. So what I'll do is I'll start with that, and we're starting with 53 grains, 3 at 53, 3 at 53 and a half, 3 at 54, and 3 at 54 and a half. And so we're just going to get started with that. And this is a pretty simple rig. It does a pretty good job. It wasn't too expensive. Here we go. And the idea is, and the nice part about it is it tracks the number of items that you do. So in this case, when I hit 53, I hit go, it just feeds it in. There we go. And then it automatically, it kind of trickles it in. So that way you get exactly the volume you're looking for. And then it beeps. So I'm going to place this right there on that. And I just simply take this off of here. And I'm just going to simply feed that right in there. That's at 53. Set it to the next one, and then I put it on. Leave it, and it does it automatically. And I kind of like this. It's easy it helps you kind of keep track of it too. There's nothing too fancy about this. Should be hitting it here in a second. There we go. And so what the 12 that I'm working on are going to be with the Sierras. And then I'm working on 3 to see what my how tight my velocities are going to be when it comes to trying out new casing and the CCI primers as opposed to the Remington primer. I'm hoping it tightens up. I've heard that these CCIs are a lot better. So that's what I'm after. I like the idea of having a more consistent grouping. I'm getting a good group. When I talk about tighter grouping, I'm talking about a closer standard of deviation. So you had cancel. Do that. Put the tray back in, and I'm going to type in 53.5. And go ahead. And again, so I have, let me pull up the these are the primers. So Magnum 250s. These have a really good reputation, and they are having a good sale on them, so I got them. H4350 is a staple powder when it comes to anything in the 30-06 family. It's actually a staple in any standard type casing. It's often even used in 308, 243, and so on, depending on the type of bullet you're using and the weight. It's very stable. It's fairly temperature sensitive, not sensitive, but temperature stable. So it seems to just perform well regardless of the temperatures outside. Every powder has a little bit of temperature sensitivity. There's none that is really going to be 100% the same velocity regardless of the conditions. Every single one is going to have a little bit. But, you know, that gap of how sensitive is the temperature can vary. The H4350, which is right here, is very common and easy to find. And so my thing is, if I'm going to promote something, I don't want to promote something with the concept that somebody can't go out and get it themselves. If I'm doing that, then it's not really applicable. I don't feel it's fair to anybody to go, hey, use Reloader 26. The thing is, if you don't have Reloader 26, you're gonna have a heck of a time even just trying to find it. I know I have. I can't find it anywhere. Some people are like, well, I have it. That's not a problem for me. Okay, if you already have it, then it's not a problem for you. But if you're trying to get into reloading, you're trying to learn, the last thing you want to be doing is going after something that you can't really get a hold of. And I don't think that's really a nice thing to go, yeah, just buy this item that is extremely expensive and difficult to get. Now, is it a really good powder, the Reloader 26? Yes. However, herein lies the problem. Number one, so far in a lot of the prices I've seen, you're looking at, on average, somewhere right around $80 a pound. It's expensive. I can get the H4350 for right around $60 a pound. That's considerably less money. And, when you're talking about trying to save, and part of the thing of reloading is it's not just about getting ultra tight groups, it's also about trying to shave off a little bit of your cost per round. And the challenge is then when you're buying the higher end powders and so on and so forth, is you end up kind of negating the whole purpose. Now, if you're talking about trying to do like ultra long range stuff, I get where you need to kind of spend it because that has a different application. But for your average person, they don't necessarily need to have that. They just kind of need something that's going to work and do the trick. And this is why I kind of advocate for things like this. Like also Ramshot Hunter is a really good one. The Vita Warriors are pretty good because you can find them online fairly easy. And that's what I'm trying to promote. And it's pretty easy to work with, and I kind of like that. Okay, I'm gonna do this right here. The same thing when it comes to the primers. I like the idea of having something that's going to be fairly easy to use and work with. I don't want something that's some oddball top of the line only used for target, like target shooters so it's kind of like my biggest pet peeve right now with the 277 Sig Fury. Is it a good cartridge? Yeah, as far as I know. But here's the thing, I've never had an opportunity to shoot it, and I don't even know anyone that has one. It's kind of an obscure type setup, and honestly, I'm not really interested in that. I know that of the two casings that right now that are 80,000 psi, if I was going to give one a try, I'd most likely go with the 7mm backcountry. And that has to do primarily because I can at least find rifles in various price points. And I can also find ammunition. So while it's not necessarily the cheapest, at least I can find it. That's the biggest thing. If I'm going to be able to do this, I need to have something I can work with. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of information as far as the reloading aspects because the casings, different things. More and more is showing up with it. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. What I'm mainly concerned about in general is taking standard types casings, sticking within the 65,000 psi, and just working with what that is. And I feel like that's a much more worthwhile investment. And the reason why is because I'm not so concerned about having an ultra short barrel or compact rig. You know, I mean, I get if you're doing, you know, the ultra lightweight backpack thing and you're trying to shave off weight, this, that, and the third. I get it. But for myself, I'm not too worried about that. I'd rather have a slightly heavier rifle and feel more comfortable with it when I'm taking my shots for my hunting. Not to mention, in general, it's just easier on the shoulder as well. I'm not afraid of recoil. I just don't have a reason to have a ton of it. Okay. Now I just hold this for 3 seconds and it shuts off and it's good to go. Now I just simply take my cover and that goes over my pan and I can simply scoot this back. It's good to go. And let me see if this will come in focus a little bit, but actually I can bring this in front of me. Here's my reloading tray. I can get this out of the way. Put that right up there. So these 12 right here, so closest to you, to the camera, is 53 grains, and then 53 and a half, 54, 54 and a half. And these 12 are going to be these Sierras. So we're going to load those first, and then these 3 are going to be for the 150 grain nozzle, Accubons. And I'm going to see what that kind of gets me as far as standard deviation. So I'm going to see what it does. I know for a fact that my rifle likes these 150s, so that's not an issue. I don't believe that's going to be a problem. I also, that's the same loading as far as what I was using before, so I have no doubt that these should group really well. I'm not going to be doing a ton of testing with that, but I am going to be curious what I'm doing with these Sierras. So let's go ahead and start that. And so what I do is it's simply, for those who haven't done any reloading, this is really simple. I just place it in here in the holder, put the bullet in, and I kind of let it guide into there, and then just seat it. And there you go. There's a 140 grain Sierra inside that nickel case. And so now I just go through and do the same thing for these 12. So the reason why I feel comfortable with these loadings right here is because, again, I'm already with the 150 grain nozzle Accubon long range. That's a 10 grain heavier projectile, and I already know that with a Magnum primer, it's comfortable to shoot it with 54 grains of N150. I mean, of H4350. I'm sorry. And so the idea all behind it is to have something that is going to be similar based upon my already existing data and be able to shoot it comfortably and accurately and safely. You know, that's the other thing too is, you know, I'm a big proponent of being safe. And so I like the idea of being able to go home at the end of the day. And I haven't done a whole. I haven't even had the chance to hunt with these Sierras. I don't know, my previous 270s, they grouped really well, but I'm kind of curious what they will do out of this rifle. I would imagine they'll do pretty well out of it. I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't have some unrealistic expectation of them being like a quarter inch or something like that. You know, I kind of just have the expectation that as long as they're staying within, 3/4 of an inch, somewhere in that ballpark, I'm going to be happy. I'm not so picky with it. And the reason, again, is because my realistic hunting ranges are going to be inside 440 yards. And if a 3/4 inch group is not enough for me to make an accurate shot at that range, then the problem isn't the gun or the load or anything else like that. It is strictly me. In which case, I need to be taking up a different hobby. And I'm not afraid to say that. So, I have full intent of definitely using these. So yeah, I have some pretty good hopes for these. I think that they'll do me just fine. I think that these have some really good potential. Because I'm already well aware what my rifle is capable of doing when it comes to slightly longer range shots. When I say slightly longer range, I mean that as it is. Slightly longer range. I made a shot with my rifle out to 375 yards, and it placed perfect double lung just on the backside of the heart. And I couldn't be happier with that. That deer did not go really anywhere. It literally did like a 20-foot U, stopped, and my wife was watching it with the binocs, and she tells you could just see the blood pouring out, and the thing hit the ground. So, yeah, these all have solid potential, and I want to be able to try to use them because I've never used them before. All right, so now because I'm using a different setting, this with the 150 grain, this is going to be a little bit longer. So what I do is I set this back up, and there we go, set this in here, spin this down, and that's going to be where it's set to. And this will be 3.422. So that's where it needs to be. This is actually a really good seating off my lands. So, yeah, all right. So now I take a 150 grain, the 54. I'm going to sit that in there. Let me close this one before I accidentally grab the wrong bullet. You know, ADHD brain and all. And I might go ahead and actually load up 3 more of these so I can do a couple groups with them to kind of get an idea. But I have a feeling that these are going to perform pretty well. Let's see, where'd you go? Right there. Let me write on them before I do anything else. down at 54. And the reason why I'm not going with anything else other than that is because I already know that they operate safely with those pressures. And that's what I want to stick with. I'm not really interested in trying to be a hero. I'm just trying to load up. There we go. Turn that on. Set that. There we go. And it's 54. There we go. The other thing is, at the end of the day, I look at this also part of the learning curve. I'm always looking to improve. I don't really consider it to be a good idea to stay stationary in learning. If you're not learning something new as often as you can, then number one, life's boring otherwise. And then the other thing is you don't advance, therefore you can't get better. And that's part of the fun, is learning how to get better. I think it's kind of an important lesson in life. It's not that you don't learn how to be satisfied or happy. It's just that you don't want to be so stagnant in what you do as far as improving yourself that you don't figure out a better way. And that's kind of like the whole journey with this new cartridge development as well. It's not just a matter of me just trying to, I'm not trying to stay stagnant. I'm trying to improve and find other ways to do things. Okay, 1, 2, 3 off. Set that there. Put this back. Put that there. Grab these. Grab a bullet. And if you really sit back and think about it, if it wasn't for others of the past that were always striving to do better and find better ways to do things, think about all the cool cartridges we wouldn't have if it wasn't for that strive to do better. As a result, many that you guys are using today, same thing happened when it came to the 7 rem mag and 300 win mag, ones like that. There's always a strive to do better, to achieve something cooler, and that's kind of an important detail. So it sometimes we get so caught up on, well, I don't need anything new and improved. Okay, maybe you don't, but the thing is, if it wasn't for somebody essentially wildcatting, they wouldn't have come up with the 300 win mag or the 7 rem mag, or even the 30-06 or the 308 or the 270. Every cartridge that we know and love today started off as a wildcat. Just because it was developed by a company doesn't mean it wasn't a wildcat. It started off as a wildcat. It got adopted by the industry. So Sammy Spec, right? And that's really kind of an important detail to remember. A Sammy Spec cartridge is nothing more than a wildcat that was adopted into industry. And so it's kind of imperative that when somebody looks at something and goes, well, what makes you so special that you should do this and blah, 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 blah. What was so special that the 270 should have made it in? Or the 30-06, or all these things. So no matter how you look at it, just because someone else doesn't necessarily agree with what you're doing or like it, doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It just means that they don't like it. And that's okay. If they want to stay stuck in the past, they can. So there you go. That's a little bit of a reloading session. So you got 12 loaded up with the Sierras, and you got 6 loaded up with the 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range. And I'm going to test these out. If the weather holds up, clears up a little bit, try to do a little bit of that this weekend. But we'll see. Right now we're kind of finally actually getting some decent snow. Yeah, now we're getting it. Anyway, but the ground could use it. I'm happy to have water. That's kind of a nicety of life. Anyway, that's what I have for tonight. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and we'll talk to you again.